let me start at the beginning. So I think, as I mentioned before, August Strindberg was a Swedish playwright, and these plays come from the turn of the century, turn of the 1800s to 1900s. And so there's some interesting history in these plays. Interesting references to quarantine, because apparently they also had epidemics going on, and actually had like people that were appointed quarantine masters to oversee all that. But we won't talk about that too much here. So yes, this book includes The Father, 1887, Miss Julie, The Dance of Death, 1, A Dream Play, and The Ghost Sonata. So I read this for a read-along, and we kind of went roughly one play a week. And as I mentioned before, Strindberg was kind of an interesting, somewhat negative character. He had a very dramatic life, I would say. I mean, he had multiple romantic relationships. He had issues with mental health. He had a number of personal opinions about things that were rather unsavory. I think I mentioned before that he was pretty misogynist, at least for some part of his life, and read an excerpt about that. So yeah, it was those elements of his personal life definitely played out in here in his plays, especially in the first three. But I think that the last two plays were definitely the strongest. So I would say the first three plays really are a lot about marital problems and how Strindberg thinks women are awful, that kind of thing. And then the last two plays get way more creative. A dream play is exactly what the title sounds like. It's surrealist, it's absurdist, it's just all sorts of crazy stuff going on stage. Rapid change of scenery and just characters wandering in and out. It was pretty forward thinking for 1901, and I can only imagine what the actors and actresses must have been thinking as they performed a dream play. And as you can see, the cast of characters is very long. But yeah, that was the first one that really appealed to me at all. Interesting themes in a dream play. So while the previous three plays were more focused on those social issues very blatantly, a dream play does go over the same things, but also I think the question of suffering, human suffering, was a big one in this. And towards the end, he also goes into broader social issues, such as the working people who are not getting fairly compensated for their labor, and then the wealthy who are profiting unduly from these people's suffering. So it was really I think, an indication that Strindberg, at least through his plays, was starting to look at things from a broader perspective. And there's way more that's could be said about this, but I would say it's one you kind of have to read for yourself and kind of draw your own conclusions. One character I really enjoyed in this one was the lawyer. The lawyer in white tie and tails is sitting to the left inside the gate at a desk covered with papers. His appearance bears witness to extreme suffering. His face is chalk white and heavily lined with purple shadows. He is ugly, and his face reflects all the kinds of crimes and vices in which his profession has necessarily involved him. And then he has a kind of a monologue where he talks about how he feels like he is tainted by all the things he has to deal with as a lawyer. So there's actually some really good scenes in a dream play. So finishing up with Strindberg here, The Ghost Sonata. This was actually my favorite of the plays. The Ghost Sonata was inspired by a couple of pieces by Beethoven. One was his Ghost Trio, and the other was his piano sonata called The Tempest. And if you look those up, they are very, well, I didn't look up the Ghost Trio, but I looked up The Tempest, and it was a very beautiful piece of music, the last movement, which particularly, Strindberg particularly liked. And this play reminded me a lot of House of the Seven Gables, because you have this house which features centrally in the Ghost Sonata, and all of these people are congregating there, and then these family secrets start coming up, and you have just people confronting each other. There's people that are kind of locked in like Dickensian existentialism, if you will. Like, they're just kind of locked in their own little world, so to speak. It's a very short play compared to the other ones. I just thought it was very, very eerie and very well written. And by far the one that I think has maybe the broadest appeal. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just really liked the Ghost Sonata. Yeah, overall, I wouldn't say this is like a favorite playwright of mine. I even preferred Arthur Miller's plays, he's also very bleak, but I don't know, his plays just are more likable to me. Still, this is interesting from a historical and, I guess, literary history viewpoint, and learned some things about Swedish life, turn of the century. So that's Miss Julie and other plays.